In March of 2017, Kipley's skin was perfect. But then in April, after we purchased the water beads, her skin started to change and she developed this rash, this dermatitis rash. She was diagnosed with dermatitis by the dermatologist, and when the rash didn't go away, we consulted with her pediatrician, who didn't check back with the dermatologist to see what he had diagnosed. That rash and its miraculous disappearance after Kipley's surgery led us to understand that Kipley's situation was more complicated than we originally thought.
Kipley is one of many innocent victims in what is now become a water bead crisis, where many people are starting to become more aware of the dangers.
Before 2019, it was detergent pods and home cleaning supplies to keep a close eye on. Now it's water beads, colorful plastic polymer beads that absorb water and grow in size.
They've been around since the 1950s for various industrial purposes.
Water beads are part of a classification known as super absorbent polymers. They are a group of molecules that are used to absorb and hold water. One example of this is that farmers often use SAPs, especially in very hot and humid climate, by planting SAPs next to the roots of plants. And so when it does rain, they often retain water. And so when a plant often runs out of water and really can't hold anymore itself, they often dip into the SAPs to take the water that they have absorbed up. Water beads are often used in many well-known products such as diapers. They're even often used with flower invasives to make sure that the flowers are able to last longer. But this took a disturbing turn as what has been used as an agricultural as well as chemical-based product has started being marketed and used as children's toys. I, like many people, have seen the Orbeez commercial back when I was around 10 years old. And, you know, it really fascinated me of how these little balls were able to get soaked up and be able to expand to about 200 times their actual size. And not only the fact that kids were starting to play with them, you know, use them as toys, but also many people are doing Orbeez challenges, people pouring Orbeez into their, you know, pipes, into their tubs, and even people are starting to use Orbeez as ammo for actual, you know, Nerf weapons. But this is starting to become a big problem because more and more research started to be done into, like, not actually what they do, but actually what they're made of. Because these things can actually cause physical damage.
Kids can sort of very easily ingest one of these, perhaps without one of their parents knowing it.
The most severe cases causing intestinal obstruction, especially in younger kids.
If you get one lodged into your esophagus or in your intestinal bowel, that can cause a lot of obstruction and a lot of damage that can really cut off oxygen and airflow, leading to asphyxiation, choking, intestinal blockage, as well as a slew of other issues that can actually get you into the hospital and put you in a coma. One of the most dangerous things about this toy is that it has a neurotoxic effect since it's made of polyacrylamide. Polyacrylamide is basically one of those super absorbent polymers, which is just a big group of clumped up molecules that are called monomers. Without getting too technical about the science, they go through a process called polymerization, basically to get clumped up together and become what they call polymers or polyacrylamide. What's scary about this process is that we get what we call residual acrylamide, which is the monomer to polyacrylamide. The acrylamide is used in a lot of things that we use on a day-to-day fashion, such as paper, dye, water treatment chemicals and compounds. Oftentimes it can be found in starchy foods, vegetables, chips, cereals, coffee, and cookies, especially any product you use when you expose it to a high amount of heat. For example, you can get acrylamide in cigarette smoke. It has caused a lot of concerning effects. Some effects include decreased body weight, indicators of repressed learning, delayed development of fine motor skills, decreased levels of chemicals used to transmit brains. In Kipley's case, she had a host of different symptoms such as coughing, trouble swallowing, vomiting, throat, abdominal, and chest pain, a red rash around her face, as well as difference in mood, temperament, skills, movement, speech, language, skin sensitivity, and even diet. And in the end, Kipley was diagnosed with something called toxic brain encephalopathy caused by acrylamide monomer poisoning that is found in water beads and Orbeez. It has led to a whole host of things that she had to deal with. Incoordination of muscles, as well as a higher risk for autism. And if you think Kipley is the only child that has suffered these injuries, you will be definitely wrong. A 10-month-old named Kennedy Mitchell, which I'm not going to include in the videos because I didn't get the mother's permission, accidentally ingested water beads, which caused her bowel obstruction, and she had to go through about 5 surgeries to be able to get to a point to survive. Now, Kennedy's mother bought this water beast from Chuckle and Roar as a sensory toy for her autistic son who is 8 years old. And this is one of the things that is very tricky because oftentimes manufacturers will market for little kids to really, feel things as well as to develop their fine motor skills and all that. But at the end of the day, Target decided to pull this product off their shelves because this is an unsafe product. I really can't blame parents, or I say that it's a parent's fault their child got hurt, because at the end of the day, these things are marketed as to look like as they're like candy, as they're like colorful.
These are transparent water beads, and they can create really cool optical illusions. Right now, the water beads are clearly visible. However, when you add water, they seem to disappear. They're still there, you just can't really see them. This is because water beads are about 99% water and have almost the same index of refraction as water, which causes them to seem invisible. Try this for yourself and follow for more science videos.
But Kennedy and Kipley are not the only victims of this. There have been a few situations where people have been unalive because Orbeez weapons have been mistaken for actual weapons.
Tonight, an off-duty correction officer is now the one behind bars, and it's drawing attention to these surprising water pellet guns in viral TikTok videos, increasingly found at the center of injuries and even deaths across the country. Police say on Thursday night, 45-year-old Dion Middleton was arrested and charged with murder, manslaughter, and criminal possession of a weapon after allegedly shooting an 18-year-old man in the Bronx. The NYPD found Raymond Chalison unconscious and unresponsive with a real gunshot wound to his face. WNBC reporting 2 NYPD sources say as police rendered aid, an officer found one of those water pellet guns. There's no evidence that the victim pointed or fired the water gun, but it's one angle in their investigation, law enforcement sources tell WNBC.
Not only that, there's been many videos coming online where people are getting a lot of property damage, especially in their pipes, because they're thinking, oh, this is a harmless toy, it's biodegradable, it'll go down the drain easily. And at the end of the day, just because it's biodegradable doesn't mean it cannot damage your entire water septic system.
Vraiment, aidez-moi. Bref, mon bail est donc rempli et en fait, ça, c'est biodégradable. Bref, du coup, je me suis dit, ouais, bon, je vais juste l'ouvrir, ça, et ça va s'en aller. Et là, regardez, ça remonte par tous les tuyaux. Regardez mes toilettes. Ça arrête pas de monter, j'en peux plus. Oh, Jésus Marie-Joseph, regardez, là aussi. Regardez, ça s'égoutte pas. Je fais quoi, mes saucissons? Regardez ça. Ça monte par les tuyaux. Oh, mais ça...
So basically, many people are suffering from the effects of orbeez, as well as trying to follow TikTok challenges. And at the end of the day, it's not worth it. And as we can talk about the people perspective all day, we need to talk about who's actually responsible and who should face the brunt of the backlash and litigation based on the damage that water beads is causing. And believe it or not, it's actually hard to sue somebody over water beads because, for one, a lot of these products are manufactured in China. And basically, in many cases throughout the past decade, where individuals try to sue Chinese companies for damages of, toy products, many attempts has went nowhere because there is a very strenuous legal partnership with the Chinese as well as the American government. For one example, a lot of Chinese companies can't be sued because they often do business over the internet as well as they don't do business on American soil. This means that the Chinese government doesn't have an obligation to force that company to really give you any records. They don't have the obligation to really enforce any rules that decide in the US. For the past decade, there's been more and more talks of actually putting more litigation towards e-commerce sites, especially in America. And that is also not as easy. In the cases of Carpenter versus Amazon, as well as Eberhard versus Amazon, Amazon has been found non-responsible in the defectiveness of different products, including a coffee maker as well as a hoverboard, because oftentimes they're just a facilitator marketplace. But as more and more, emphasis has gone on e-commerce, as well as many people are starting to use Facebook Marketplace, as well as many other alternative sites to do e-commerce, there's more advocacy and litigation going on saying that these e-commerce sites are starting to become more and more responsible for what being sold on their, website. But in all this, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are wondering, so who's in charge of consumer protection, as well as, why hasn't there been no widespread ban of water beads in the US? And you can thank your consumer protection agency as well as your poison control for that. The agency in charge of consumer product safety is the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the CPSC. For one thing, consumer product recalls are absolutely voluntary. Now, there's certain laws that companies need to follow, and if their product is found defective, then they're required technically by the Consumer Protection and Safety Act to really, follow the procedures to report it to the product company and the commission. But still, make no mistake, there is not only a voluntary need to recall a product in the first place, there is no model framework for how a recall will take place. When I look at the commission's website, they basically said that many different products and items are unique and they have their own recall process. But at the end of the day, there has to be some steps or guidelines into how the agency needs to take, in order to deem a product, defective or, dangerous to the public. What's also shocking is that at the time of this recording, that there was almost about 540, actual employees for this commission, for the agency, which is not a lot of employees to really protect the public from a billion dollar industry with multiple players, foreign players, as well as many different intermediaries and facilitators. Another thing I'm gonna read specifically from the Consumer Product Safety Act is the disclosure under Section 6, which basically says the commission shall, prior to the disclosure of any information which will permit the public to ascertain readily the identity of a manufacturer or private labeler of a consumer product, offer such a manufacturer or private labeler an opportunity to mark such information as confidential and therefore barred from disclosure under paragraph. I read it off the actual law that was written into Congress. So that sentence there, it makes it seem like that certain information can be hidden as well as made private, especially the identity of the company that was involved in the recall. If the company or labeler or private manufacturer has the ability to stay confidential, then what does that do for consumer product safety? Because it'll be just as easy for that person to go manufacture some other product and basically be able to, mess up again. Follow poison control and their response to the growing dangers of water beads. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding that, as if you go to the water beads lady's TikTok.
This article from Poison Control, I went through each and every one of the citations that they used because I am me. This citation that was used to claim that they were safe actually goes into and discusses the issue I've been talking about with regards to residual monomers and polyacrylamide's ability to revert back into neurotoxic acrylamide. So yeah, water beads can be toxic. And I wrote a paper about it.
Don't really talk about the neurotoxic effect of it, especially with acrylamide. One issue that the water bead lady has noted is that they disclose water beads as non-toxic. Non-toxic is problematic because oftentimes many different professionals see toxicity in 3 steps. For one, chemicals must have toxic effects. 2, an individual must be vulnerable to toxic effects. And 3, sufficient exposure must occur. Now, the issue that we're trying to diagnose, children with a water bead or toxic injury related to water beads is that oftentimes they are untraceable on CT scans. They often look like cysts from the small intestinal or oftentimes gas and often overlooked until you get a second opinion or a second look at it, in which time often expires from that first to second opinion to where the water bead and the toxicity can cause a lot more damage. Another thing that cytotoxic cerebral edema as well as toxic brain encephalopathy cannot be detected on traditional MRI scans. This is also crucial because oftentimes these are diagnosed after a child leaves the hospital, in which a lot more time has expired for more damage to be done to an individual's health due to these type of injuries. And the most important thing that tests, especially when you want to test for acrylamide, is not really available to medical professionals, meaning that doctors have to get permission or have to order these types of tests to get for children. And when you talk about kids being exposed to dangerous chemicals, the 3-step process to determine whether a product is non-toxic or not is really negligible, because you don't have the infrastructure or the means to really test that. But to add on more perspective to it, in my opinion, I feel like the way that we view non-toxic, in this case of water beads, is a way we view like fast food, junk food, because it doesn't really cause us immediate harm once compounded and once really just being studied over years and years, and we start seeing damages such as obesity, heart disease, and so that non-toxic labeling in the beginning does not do nothing because it can lead to very much toxic things in the end. And when you talk about that chemical injuries from children's toys is not often studied or collected, as well as the chemical contents of actual toys are often gatekept by actual manufacturers and not even told to, you know, companies that sell those toys, then you have a whole slew of reason why the non-toxic label for water beads doesn't mean sugar honey iced tea to anybody. So to round off this video, what can parents do to actually protect their kids from this? And to be honest, while I'm a public health YouTuber, I'm still just a 22-year-old that doesn't have any children. But go to the Water Bead Lady's website because she has a lot more advice on how to navigate this situation if this happens to you, as well as her experience with her daughter Kipley. But just in general, show some love, because a lot of this information I got for this video came from her, and she has worked many, you know, nights, many days, talking to different stakeholders to really bring awareness to this issue. And the fact of the matter is, we really don't protect our kids. And I think this is a very important issue that we need to talk about. So if you like what you see today, please share this video with a parent. Please share this video with a colleague. If you'll see more of my content, here's a video right here. Go like it up, watch it, all that wonderful good stuff, as well as I'm doing a lot more commentary videos in the new year. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Stay warm, stay frosty, depending on what part of the country you're in, and peace out.